This is
Make It Plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we go out to the left coast to speak to our dear friend. He is the founder of the largest online progressive community. Markos Moulitsas of DailyKos joins us once again for Thursday Coast. Markos, how are you, man?
Doing great. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good. Hanging in here. It's hot.
I'm actually gonna be out there tomorrow near you. I'm gonna be in New Jersey.
Okay.
So I guess I'll be in that oven because it's nice here in the Bay Area. We don't get too hot.
Yeah. Let me do this first of all, Markos. I don't think we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but just your thoughts about the life and legacy of John Lewis and what might be applicable from his life for the entire electorate going forward into November.
And he spent his entire life trying to get people engaged in the political process, realizing that that's where the actual power is wielded. And I do think that in the last several cycles, the Black community has actually responded and turned out in larger numbers. I would love to see that energy continue to maximize Black turnout, but also in my community, the Latino community, has terrible turnout rates all across the country, and it matters. Who you vote for matters, and now we've learned this in we've learned this in a lesson that we shouldn't have had to learn. I mean, it's cost us 150,000 dead so far. We're probably going to be at 250 at least by the time November rolls around. Not to mention children in cages, and now we're going to see people get thrown out of their homes because eviction controls are being thrown out, and Republicans can't get their act together to pass any kind of stimulus or help for people that are suffering, or even further aids to the states who are fighting this pandemic. All of this matters. And John Lewis, his activist bona fides are second to none. And he transitioned into the world of governing, of electoral politics. And there's too many people still in our movement, Mark, who think that there's something wrong with electoral politics, that it's sullying, that it's dirty, that you have to compromise. So they'd rather live on empty slogans and actions that really don't move the ball. I mean, and Mark, remember we were already talking during Occupy. When was Occupy? Like 2003 or something? I mean, it was a while ago.
It was that long ago, yeah, it was.
and they were proudly non-electoral, and it fizzled out, right? Like, what is the legacy of Occupy? Nothing. Nothing. They had a moment and then they disappeared because they did not engage electorally. And I got to say, elected officials, they know who has power. And if they look at a protest movement, they'll be a little freaked out, right? Like, oh my God, do I need to worry? And then if they say, we're not going to do electoral politics, they're like, phew, we don't have to worry. We can ignore them from here on out. And one of the things that I love about this Black Lives Matter protest movement right now is that we know empirically that voter registration is up everywhere, and particularly amongst youth in areas where the protests are taking place. And so to me, that is the core of the John Lewis legacy. It's go to the streets, it's protest, it's fight for what you believe in. and then vote, and then run for office, and then hold your elected officials accountable, because that is where the real power is wielded.
Yeah, I would agree. Speaking, and that's exactly what he was about. Everybody is not going to aspire to being elected, but you can still vote.
Please.
Those who do that should do it, and the rest of us should vote to support progressive people who are doing that. Speaking of young people and engagement, you have said that you support now Karen Bass. Does that ticket, a Biden Bass ticket, engage and pull in the support of that younger generation you and I have been saying, need to vote?
I think so. I mean, I a couple of things. First of all, by saying I support Karen Bass doesn't mean I don't support anybody else, right? This is not a primary election where it's my choice or nobody else. I mean, there are great potential candidates, and a lot of them are going to make me excited. So let's. I know people get all riled up when you talk BP, and in no way does that mean I don't support other potential candidates. It just means that I think, given the time, given the political situation, given the state of the Republican Party, Karen Bass would be, in my opinion, the best option. That said, I think what a VP does is limited. So we tend to debate and argue these things in these little political circles. Is there a VP candidate that would rally youth voters more than anybody else? I'm not so sure. Maybe AOC, but she's not old enough, right? There's a couple politicians that have some juice with younger voters, and none of them are, I think, 35 years old, unfortunately. Maybe Ayanna Pressley. I would. Nothing is going to rally the youth vote more, I think, than the current movement. I think that's doing a good job of making young people realize that things will not change as long as Republicans are in charge. And I think Donald Trump, by his own lonesome self, just by saying the kind of stuff he says, is himself doing a lot to motivate voter support. And we're seeing it over at Civiqs with a Q, civiqs.com with a Q. We track Joe Biden's approval ratings and Donald Trump's approval ratings, but Joe Biden's approval ratings in all 50 states by age groups. And you can go and look yourself. And if you look at the 18 to 29-year-olds, they are getting more favorable towards Biden. It's gradual. It's not at the levels of anybody else. There's still some residual in that world. But I think people are realizing this is by far the better option. And in the end, we don't even need them to really like Joe Biden. We just need them to realize that things are only going to get better when we wipe out Republicans this November.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so. And they are flailing. Now I'm surprised, they've actually canceled the Jacksonville convention. Even this COVID is making them change some of their crazy plans. Herman Cain, Shucky Ducky, who was in Tulsa, I think he's now on a ventilator.
He must be. They say he's on oxygen. Which,
right. So what else is there? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're realizing now that people are actually imperiled by this thing, and it's wrong to bring people together in this way. I mean, this, it took a plague to take Pharaoh out. So maybe that's really, I'm beginning to wonder.
Don't give Republicans or Trump any credit on canceling the Jacksonville convention. What really happened there is that the sheriff of Duval County, in which Jacksonville is in, a Republican sheriff, to be clear, said, I can't pull this off. There's no way for me to provide security. Where at the time they were 60 days out or 45 days out. I forget the exact number. I think it was 45 days out. The local law enforcement, the sheriff's office, did not have a plan from the RNC about what was happening at the convention. So they were too incompetent to do the kind of planning you need to do. And this planning, to be clear, takes months and years, right? This thing is supposed to be planned out a year in advance, right? So the sheriff said, I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm supposed to protect. And I need 2,000 police present to handle just basic security needs. And I only got 500. And local police departments are in Florida. This is Florida, right? They're ravaged by COVID. I know in Miami, there was like 80 officers who were out of commission because they had the virus. And they're dealing with local security because of the pandemic. So the sheriff's like, I don't have a plan. I don't have the manpower. And I don't even have the money. Because of course, are you really going to expect the Republican Party to pay people? I think San Antonio is still waiting on for its bills to be paid from a Trump rally last year. So no money, no planning. I mean, it was just ranking competence from top to bottom. So there was literally no way they could do it. They just said, nope. And Trump had no chance. And so now he pretends that it's about protecting people while he's still walking around without mask, while he's still demanding that schools reopen in our unsafe environment. And I don't know, has his tone changed today? I mean, is the media going to get all excited about his tone changing? Not changing.
You have another headline in the past few days. The Trump campaign is a cesspool of mismanagement, nepotism, grift, and idiocy. Talk to
So the Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee had a massive fundraising advantage over Biden and the DNC just 3 months ago. If you look at the other party committees, if you look at the Senate and the House committees, Democrats are crushing it. If you look at candidates, Democrats are crushing it. All Republican money has been flowing to Donald Trump, to the point where he was actually demanding that Republican House members give him their money. And they did. And now those Republicans are in danger of getting blown out, and Trump doesn't care, right? He don't care. He just wants all the money because he's Donald Trump. So he was sitting on, at one point, a $180 million advantage over Biden and the DNC, right? It seemed like, oh my God, he's going to have all this money. What he's done since then, though, as of the end of June, it's basically parity. I think Donald Trump and the RNC have like a $5 million advantage. So $180 million to $5 million. What happened to close the gap? One is Democrats and donors started giving to Joe Biden, so he's closed the gap. But that was just a small part of it. The real part of it is he's funneling money to his businesses. He's funneling money to the wives and girlfriends of his sons. He's funneling money to lawyer fees to sue CNN for running a poll. I mean, I think it's up to 30 lawsuits, and he's going to lose all of them. It's just the campaign sues people because Trump is used to getting his way by suing people. Yeah. And so sue them, right? And they're like, oh, okay. They've wasted money on TV advertising. I mean, we knew that they were running ads in Washington, D.C. media market because they know that's where Trump watches TV and Trump needs to see himself happening. The second largest recipient of campaign ad spending is Ohio, by a long shot, Ohio. And I think we discussed last week or the week before that Ohio is not going to decide the presidential election. If Joe Biden wins Ohio, he's already won Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and probably Florida, and probably Georgia. And so there is no scenario in which Biden wins Ohio and loses Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, right? So why would you spend a dime in a state that isn't going to decide things, right? But last count, I think it was in the $30 million range in Ohio. So you had his Brad Parscale, his last campaign manager, spent, I think the last they saw it was, $500,000 promoting himself, driving people to his own private personal Facebook page. And now the Republicans are engaged in a forensic analysis to see what else may have happened from the financial shenanigans. And Parscale, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It don't matter. I think his salary was like $15,000 a month. which is not bad, but he's driving a Ferrari, has 2 new lake houses. I mean, and he has no other job, right? This is all grifting from the campaign. And all the people working for that campaign are grifters because Trump is surrounded by grifters, right? That's just the world he lives in. And I'd have to go back. But if you go through, I mean, it's misspending over misspending over misspending, and it's all funneling campaign dollar to his campaign. Oh, the convention. That's going to cost him $10, $15 million right there by moving to a place and then not having it. And so now you're paying convention costs in Jacksonville and Charlotte for a convention. That's just not going to happen, right? So what was a nearly $200 million advantage is all but evaporated. And to be very clear, I don't think money controls the campaign. Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump by about $200 million. People forget this, right? So I wasn't too worried about him having a big cash advantage, but now there's not even the possibility that money could have an impact. And then finally, I don't think there's a single person in this country that will see a 30-second ad and go, I was voting for Joe Biden, but now I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, or vice versa. So a lot of that money is just wasted, and it's just vestiges of traditional campaign running, where people think that you have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in TV ads. It's when you have Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they're so well defined, people know them. Nobody's mind is being changed. So bottom line is, don't worry if you see that Donald Trump is raising a lot of money, because he's sucking up all the Republican money, hurting down ballot Republicans, and he's grifting it. Him and his merry band of grifters, friends and family, are just grifting it for themselves. So it's not even being spent trying to get him elected.
Wow. And then, what is it? Florida, and is it Georgia with the highest unemployment numbers now?
Boy, yeah. I mean, the irony, the last week's newly unemployed numbers, Florida and Georgia, by far the largest number of unemployed people. And the reason, you probably brought it up, the reason this is incredibly ironic is because those are the 2 states that have done nothing to actually shut down the state, because supposedly they want to protect the economy. And even Texas and even Arizona, both who have Trumpian governors, even those 2 states have enacted stricter restrictions. Texas even has a statewide mask mandate now. Florida and Georgia, nothing. And the reality is, and we saw this in Europe with Sweden, which also didn't close down, is that you cannot have a functioning economy when everybody you interact with is a potential vector of a fatal disease. And so they are being dramatically impacted, and states that are being more prudent actually have more resilient economies. I mean, New York has actually gained jobs, even though it's still pretty tightly shut down.
Yeah.
Once you control the disease, you can actually have more of an economy, slowly and surely.
And the thing about these jobs, so every month when the new jobs numbers come out, I talk to my friend Chad Stone Markos, who's the chief economist at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. And last month, and we'll see at the end of this week what the new numbers look like, and they'll tell us more. But last month, this is what it looks like. There was a little bit of an uptick. People were back at work, but it didn't reflect the surge that was coming on just as those jobs numbers were coming out.
Yep.
I believe what we're going to find is that the surge and those last month's jobs numbers are related. It was essential workers that went back to work, and people working in the restaurant industry and hospitality industry, people of color, who rushed back to work as these states reopened. And as soon as they went back to work, they got infected. And so now those are the same numbers that are now filing overwhelmingly for unemployment. So there's a direct relationship between the unemployment and the surge, and all of that. And that's probably a too complicated a way for it to be explained in a 5-second television soundbite. But you can't really separate the two. You don't reopen, you don't have a surge. You don't reopen, you don't have a surge, and you don't have higher unemployment. The same people have their jobs back 30 days, I'm back off the job again.
Yeah, you don't need an ad to explain that. People get it. People get it. And in fact, the New York Times on Tuesday released a study that found that the higher the number of deaths in a county, the lower Donald Trump's support goes. And this doesn't matter if it's a blue county, red county, whatever. People are realizing it, and they're putting the blame right where it belongs. And there's a reason Republicans are flailing right now, and it's not because of any Democratic ad campaign. In fact, as we joked about, Joe Biden doesn't even seem to have a campaign, right? He's just lounging by the pool or something. And every time he pops out, you kind of wish he didn't. So I
have to. I said to some people that we mutually know, I said, Markos keeps saying that, and I wish he stopped saying that. A couple of people, you'd be surprised where they are, where they work. Like, no, Markos might be right, Mark. So,
you're kidding. His best campaign stuff he's done is when he does these chats with like Barack Obama, and where he's interviewing other people, and actually it's a good look for him because it shows him to be statesman-like, but without him saying.
So the diplomatic phraseology that was put on what you're saying by other folk I talk is called not committing unforced errors. That's what that's called.
Yes.
You don't want to commit unforced errors. So just be cool.
And two things. Republicans were really counting on that as a way to try to knock Joe Biden down a bunch throughout the course of the campaign. And Joe, he would have provided plenty of fodder. And I don't think it matters because, again, if you look at the double haters, people who don't like Biden, who don't like Trump, right now they're 80, 90% going to Biden. And in 2016, those double haters went to Trump because they hated Hillary Clinton more for stupid reasons. But the reality is Trump is so effective at digging his own grave that even if Biden was, Obama-esque in his rhetoric, like why step in the way? Just let Trump keep digging his grave. And I don't know if you remember this. Most people don't, but the Trump campaign did a good job the last 2 weeks of the election in 2016 of getting Trump to stop tweeting and to shut up. And he sort of kind of disappeared. And magically, it's within that period, the Comey report came out, and so all the focus was on Hillary Clinton, right. And it moved numbers. Not a lot, 1-2 points, but he didn't win by more than 1-2 points in those key states. So we have a reverse situation right now where it's Trump who keeps doing and saying things that just keep digging that hole deeper and deeper, and his campaign. If they had any kind of juice, what they would do with him is just get him to shut up, and his numbers would improve. Just naturally, I guarantee you, his numbers would improve. He cannot do it. He can't even do the whole tone change thing. Like, what was it, 24 hours this time? And the media's like, oh, he changed his tone. No, 24 hours. He can't hold it. He can't sustain it. And so you look and you like, there's nothing in how he's running this campaign that says, I want to be reelected. Now he does because he doesn't want to be embarrassed and he doesn't want to be labeled a loser, but he's not going to do the things that he needs to do to win the campaign. And if you look back at his career, when has he done anything? When has he had to work or shown any discomfort in order to get ahead in life? Right? He hasn't. Right? He screws stuff up. He declares bankruptcy. He sues his critics into silence. And that's how he's gotten ahead in life. And suddenly he's at a place where he, failing upwards, he can't fail more upwards. I mean, he's already failed at the top. 150,000 people and counting are dead. And he can't sue his way out of it, even though his legal, I think he's spent $40 million so far and counting. And a typical campaign at this point will have spent $4 or $5 million in legal expenses on regulatory stuff. And now he's at $40-50 million spent. So he cannot do what he needs to do to win. And that's why I've been so confident from the very beginning, just knowing who Donald Trump is and knowing his history, that he is quite incapable of reversing course and being somebody that he's not.
Yeah.
And
should we see again, and I might have asked you this last week too, but there's the element of October surprise. Now, some people are already saying that if there's a vaccine, that'll be his October surprise and he'll win. I don't think there's going to be a successful vaccine in the next 2 months. I think that's unrealistic. And I don't know that people will give him credit for it. But
they won't.
I do think that Russia's planning something, and they're going to do something. There's going to be some online activity. There really already is. That I think so I don't think that it's all idiocy. I mean, we know he's an idiot and we know they're flailing, but he has that in his back pocket. I think he knows he's going to get some help and going to get a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I mean, it was different in 2016 when the focus was on Hillary Clinton and their supposed, corruption and all that. And so it was easier to stoke those racial divisions. Obviously, we know they targeted, the Black community heavily to try to suppress that vote, and they did so to some extent. But this time, it's the danger so clear. The focus is on Trump. I don't see, and I don't want to sound complacent because obviously we need to be vigilant, and it's just hard to see what message they could use that can penetrate the anti-Trump bubble. And you're seeing polling showing that Trump's negative approvals are over 50%, but they're strongly negative over 50%. We're not even talking, most pollsters asking somewhat approved, somewhat disapproved, strongly disapproved. The strongly are now a majority, and he is in real trouble. And in Civiqs polling, we're seeing Montana and Alaska are tight states. I mean, when you have that kind of national shift where you have a +8, +9 shift to the left, and that means from baseline. So baseline is 2016. Donald Trump won Montana by 20, and suddenly it's competitive, right? In Montana, that's shifted 20 points. We're not seeing a national 20-point shift, but we're seeing about a national 8 or 9 points shift, and that just means all those battlegrounds, all the 2016 battlegrounds are in Biden's corner right now, and he's leading in every single one of the Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those will decide the election. But Trump is also, Biden is also tied in Alaska, Montana, Iowa. He's narrowly behind in Ohio. He is about 5 to 6 points behind in Texas. He's about 7 points behind in South Carolina. These are states that are still trending in the Democrats' direction. And there's just nothing Russia or anybody else can do if they push it, a couple points back in Trump's direction, he still loses by a lot. So I'm less concerned about Russia, and I'm more concerned about efforts to delegitimize mail-in voting. And Trump is really, really trying to claim that any votes cast by mail are illegitimate because Democrats are nailing it in vote by mail organizing. He is trying. You had Bill Barr testifying in the Senate the House yesterday. And Bill Barr, the Attorney General, saying that if the results are clear, Donald Trump should leave office. What's that mean, if the results are clear, right? They're laying the foundation to say, well, the results are unclear. And that's the bigger danger is you're going to have this mass, you're going to have 30 million deplorables saying Donald Trump was, the election was stolen from Donald Trump. What does that mean?
Yeah. And we know you're right, they're going to do that no matter what. He loses in a landslide. They're going to say it's rigged. Yeah. They blame the mail-in balloting that they won't let happen. Barr testifying even on Tuesday that, he feels there's a lot of fraud in mail-in balloting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there isn't. There isn't fraud in mail-in ballot, just to be very, very clear.
Yeah, it's very clear.
Yeah.
Folks, Markos is going to take a couple of weeks off and enjoy your time off. Be careful.
It's a digital detox. If all goes well, I'm actually going to stay away from the internet, which is, so if I come back, I may not know anything about what's happening. Just, it's a warning. I'm allowed to check back in when a VP is chosen. That's it.
When is that supposed to happen? Do we know?
It's this week, next week. It was late July apparently, and we're in July's almost over. Yeah, I don't think he's in any hurry, right? Why? At this point, I think he should just maybe, he can wait.
Civiqs.com, DailyKos.com. Markos Moulitsas here for Thursday Coast as always. Thank you, buddy. Enjoy your time off.
Thank you very much. Have a great week, and everybody, please stay safe.
Yes, sir.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.
Welcome to the future of legal THC, Mood's THCA flower. It's the most potent breakthrough in the world of federally legal cannabis. And now you have 10 high-inducing strains of this smokable flower to choose from at HelloMood.com, the best online dispensary that ships discreetly to your door. Great for beginner and veteran users, the experts at Mood have tailored different strains for curated moods. From euphoric and energized to creative and focused, Mood delivers the highest quality THC products you can trust. However you like to take THC, Mood enhances awe-inspiring experiences with versatile products that go with whatever mood you're ready for, like their great-tasting gummies, convenient pre-rolls, classic flower, and so much more. Try Mood's new THCA flower today, and for 20% off your first order plus a free pre-roll of THCA flower, go to HelloMood.com and use promo code podcast20. That's HelloMood.com, promo code podcast20 for 20% off your order and a free THCA pre-roll.